Hello and welcome to Biting. Hello and welcome to Bitting. Uh, and Today we have a very important session. The most important thing today is that we are going to talk about DePIN, that is decentralized physical infrastructure. Why it is important? Why it is the buzzword? Because we wanted to do this session on DePIN for some time now, and for me, I think why DePIN is important because DePIN seems to be the way when we say that how masses will enter into Web3. I think DePIN is one way of bringing the masses into Web3. And the most fascinating thing I like about DePINs is that people are not even aware that they are using DePIN, right? I mean, that is the best part because if the masses have to enter into Web3, uh, the thing that is the most important thing is that you cannot expect masses to begin with MetaMask and then storing then their private keys and then probably interacting with different smart contracts. You want applications where people are not even aware that they're using Web3 and decentralized physical infrastructure, deepins as we say, are definitely going to be one of the biggest and one of the major use cases in Web3 where people might be using it, and people are, by the way, already using it because there are some reports by Messari where they have said that DePIN is going to be the biggest sector in Web3, where you are seeing a fascinating growth. We have seen so many projects already in DePIN, and we are going to discuss about this space, about DePIN, about growth in DePIN from Deniz, who's actually who's already built something which has a use case. And the most important thing is that I also want to talk about how Maruti Suzuki, in India it is Maruti Suzuki, but globally it is Suzuki. So Suzuki has kind of shown interest in Soarchain. So we want to talk about that. Why automobile industry? How more automobile industry is going to, get changed after the how Web3 is going to impact automobile industry. What is the use case in the automobile industry? Because we have already seen one project in Solana, that has done amazingly well. I mean, that has got users and that has done pretty well. If you want to get the device today, you have to wait for some time. So I want to understand all these things. So to begin with, Pranav, welcome Dennis. So Dennis, welcome to Web3 Ki Dunya. This show is about educating people in the country about Web3 and what are the different use cases and what are the various projects that are evolving in this space, and we do it from a scratch. And the best way to do it is by having conversations. So welcome. And Dennis, if you can tell us more about your background and how this idea of Soar chain came into your mind.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thanks for having me. Hello, everyone. So I'm Deniz. I'm one of the co-founders of Soarchain. Mm, I'm originally from an electrical and electronics engineering background, and I've been working in the automotive industry for about a decade now. And I've been working on autonomous vehicles for about 6, 7 years now, specifically the hardware that makes these hardware and the software that make these vehicles autonomous. And uh, we were actually pretty successful in doing so, where we realized that the real obstacle between today and tomorrow's autonomous future is actually the lack of a connectivity layer between these vehicles, between the vehicles and the people with the cloud. So a general lack of the connectivity layer, and there are many reasons why this connectivity layer doesn't exist or is insufficient as it is right now. And we basically started to develop our product, and we tackled it in a way that we would cover everything from starting from the hardware, software, up until the application layer. And again, this was mostly targeting the autonomous vehicles when we started, because we really believe that autonomous vehicles needed this technology, this connectivity technology. Then we saw a lot of interests from OEMs. We saw a lot of interest from the companies in the automotive industry, where we realized that, okay, this is not actually the problem for autonomous vehicles, because we don't really have a lot of autonomous vehicles yet, but this is the way to go to the autonomous vehicles. And even more so, we saw that the current vehicles would be able to get, you could be able to get much more from the vehicle that you currently own. It doesn't have to be autonomous. It doesn't even have to be like a high level autonomy. And we started considering these vehicles not just as a means of transport, but as powerful and data-rich servers, and something that you can actually utilize its resources, and more importantly, maximize the benefits you get out of it. So we started building Soarchain, and that's basically how we started. And when we initially started building Soarchain, of course, the DePIN narrative was not around that much, so to say. We had like a couple of a single project that was actually successful, which of course had its success worldwide. It was a huge success, and thus the term DePIN emerged. But yeah, that's roughly how we started. But yeah, I'll be giving more details over the course of the talk.
Yeah, the project you're talking about is called Filecoin, right? That was successful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I wasn't even actually referring to Filecoin. But yeah, when you think of it, it is probably the first one to implement some kind of like incentive structure to actually gather people together, coordinate them in a way, in a completely decentralized way, so that they can actually spend their time and resources to provide some useful physical infrastructure service to the others in need. And that
yeah,
the Filecoin, yeah, it is like the perfect example, I guess, and the
yeah.
first one to implement this kind of
Okay.
approach.
Yeah, basically, I would want to tell everybody that decentralized physical infrastructure in general has existed before crypto. You might have heard about torrent, right? And downloading files from torrent. So basically, decentralized physical infrastructure has existed in the past, but it was not successful back then because there was no incentive for people to basically host those kind of infrastructure. There was no economy to basically empower that kind of an infrastructure, and hence it was not. It was adopted widely for consumption, but it was not adopted widely for basically giving the services, which led to eventual demise of decentralized physical infrastructure in its purest form. When Web3 or crypto came in and the token incentive model came in the play, things became much more
Pranav? Pranav? Hello? Pranav? Yeah. So I think Pranav has dropped. So I think first, yeah, so Pranav has joined back. Okay. In the meanwhile, Dennis, just wanted to understand from you if you can tell people about what exactly Soar chain is solving. I mean, if you can just
Mhm.
tell it in the simplest of form, where anybody listening to you should be able to grasp that what exactly Soar chain is solving and how it is solving.
Yeah, of course. So it is basically like, in a sentence or two, I'd say that it enables people to maximize the benefit that they get out of their mobility experience. So it is we are building Soarchain to actually bring a whole new approach to the mobility experience, take it many steps forward for the people. So this is like the simplest way to explain. But of course, why this is necessary and why it hasn't been done until now is, again, very in line with what Pranav was actually Pranav's point. So previous to this, like we did have peer-to-peer networks. We did have like decentralized physical infrastructure networks. But I think one of the most important part, like right now, we call this DePIN. DePIN is the name for it. But previous to that, I really liked another definition by Mike Zacko. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correct. He actually coined the term token incentivized physical infrastructure networks, which, in my opinion, fits a lot more to this definition, because the decentralization aspect is not necessarily a must have for all these networks, so to say. So the token incentivized physical infrastructure networks fit, this definition fits with most of the already existing projects. With that being said, the Soarchain is basically came out of the need to actually bring all the stakeholders in the mobility industry together and have them benefit from all the existing infrastructure and the potential interactions. And by all stakeholders, we mean the drivers themselves as end users, any kind of road user. It doesn't have to be a car. It can be a two-wheeler. It can be a scooter. It can be even micromobility. It will even be pedestrians. And on the other side of the equation, we have the car manufacturers, their tier one suppliers, and the third-party service providers to the mobility, such as like servicing companies, insurance companies, parts companies, EV charging companies, any type of third-party service that is serving to the mobility that is not like a car manufacturer, basically. And it is a $1 trillion industry, and the main issue is that it is very fragmented. So there are hundreds of players, countless technologies, and many market forces at play. Traditionally, they were trying to form some consortiums, which didn't really have any concrete results, because what you have is a centralized body, a leading entity, let's say some company X, and they would be leading the project. They would develop closed source technologies, and the others won't be using it, and the mobility automotive sector wouldn't move forward as a whole. But when you bring in an open, decentralized, and most importantly, incentivized infrastructure into play, you bring all these players and all these stakeholders together, working within the same incentive structure with its own game theoretic dynamics. So that's actually the where the problem arises and how we're solving it with Soarchain. But from the end user's perspective, it is pretty simple. As a driver, you basically get access to your car data through a device which we provide.
Yeah.
And through this device, you can actually utilize or monetize your car data according to what you want to share. If you opt in to share even one type of data, that's also fine. Even if you don't share anything, you still get access to the applications within the ecosystem. So it has two parts.
Got it.
You get the hardware, plug it into your car, and start providing your availability to the network, where you actually contribute to the whole infrastructure with both your data and both by verifying other vehicles' data. And in return, you get network rewards. And with these rewards, you can actually get service from the applications that are within the Soarchain ecosystem. It could be an insurance application. It could be a predictive maintenance application. It could be a safety application. It could be a diagnostics application. There are countless.
Yeah.
So
Let
that's
me allow me to explain it as well, because whatever understanding that you've given me, let me explain it in the simplest of manner. I think it will be interesting. So what happens that, what Dennis is saying here is, so basically, when you drive a car, the car is generating so much of information that you are not even aware. Few informations you are aware, but there are many information, because the cars of today are fit in with a lot of sensors, and these sensors, they communicate with different part of the car, number one. And these sensors are also communicating with the GPRS, probably if that's activated. And when you're driving a car on road, it generates a lot of information and a lot of data about the car, about the driving style, about the driving pattern, about the situation of the car, about the different parts that are there in the car, and how well they are performing. Different kind of data is generated. Now imagine if this data can be used in some form, because the only point right now is when you take your car to a service center, then only the service provider plugs in some data point into the car, and then the car manufacturing gets that information. That's the only way to get information from the car. But just imagine when you're driving a car, and if you can generate so many things out of the data, out of the information. Like for example, if Pranav has an insurance company, and Pranav uh, has two client, one is me and another is Deniz. I am a guy who drives a car at 50 km per hour, and Dennis, every time he takes out the car, he drives at 120 km per hour. Now, who is a safer driver? I am more of a safer driver for insurance company, and Dennis is a risky driver for insurance company. Now imagine if this data can be provided to insurance companies so that they can decide upon the insurance based on the driving style of the driver. Maybe this is one example, right? And there are various other examples. When the car is drive when you're driving a car, there are a lot of information about the street lights, about the crossings, about the various signboards, about the various data present on the road, about the malls, shopping malls, motels, everything around the car when it is driving. Just imagine all that data, if that can get captured, and that data can be commercialized in the future. And now how that data gets captured, it's not that Soarchain is the only project that is trying to disrupt automobile industry. There are other as well, who are trying to solve some different aspect, like IoTex is there, and Hive Mapper on Solana. But Soarchain is trying to solve it is trying to solve the problem of the collectively. It is trying to gather every data point that is available when you're driving a car. Now, for example, let me just share the website. Now, what Dennis is saying here, you have this device, Motus. Now, the name of the device is Motus. It is like a USB drive. You just need to connect it with your dashboard, and the moment it gets connected, it generates so many data points. And that data points, obviously, now you can say, what is in it for me? Why should I plug in, right? And obviously, when you plug in this, and you are helping this data to get generated, and obviously that data is useful. And once you opt to plug in into your car, you obviously get rewarded, and that reward can be in the form of motors, and that can be further be converted into tokens. I hope I was able to justify my explanation, Dennis.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it was perfect actually. I wish I was able to explain it like that to most people. Yeah.
no, thank you, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. But I really, trust me. Now imagine, this is what we are saying, the perfect use case of Web3. Web3 is not for meme coins. Web3 is not for pump and dump show. If today, if I go to a regulator or a government and say that, boss, this is the real application, this is going to disrupt the automobile industry, this is going to disrupt the insurance companies, and this is also going to enhance the road safety. Now imagine if you can generate so much data about a particular driver, about a particular car, then you can also make certain standards, procedures, where you can have advanced alert system for different drivers, for different solutions, for customized solutions, for different kind of a driving patterns. No, I mean, so many things can be done on the base of the data. Today, we cannot have a data, but what Dennis is trying to solve is, by that device and blockchain, he is able to disrupt this automobile industry. And that's why Maruti Suzuki, I mean, guys, the biggest player in the country today, I mean, Maruti Suzuki has shown interest in Soarchain, and we'll talk about that later. So, Pranav, till here, you have anything in your mind, especially because you were, while we were offline at the back end, you were saying you like to ask question regarding the Cosmos, why they have opted for Cosmos and all that.
Yeah, yeah, of course. So first of all, like what Kashiv and Deniz was saying, right? Decentralized physical infrastructure, has existed, but this is the first time it can be incentivized, and that's why, like it is something that is getting a lot of attention and effect. And a few great examples of them already live are Filecoin, as well as few other Hive Mapper on Solana that's making a lot of strides, and I'm sure in the future, Sword Chain will have a similar effect. The reason behind that is because you can hear me, right?
Yeah, yeah, continue.
The reason behind that is because vehicles data basically generates a lot of points which can be utilized by different organizations, including one example of insurance organization to basically make certain decisions. But all these vehicles, first of all, exist independently in different companies, right? Maruti Suzuki has its own database. Mercedes Benz has its own database, Ford has its own database, and they don't want to collaborate on one particular database to give its data. They will have their own databases, and nobody wants to give the database to another one. So basically, an insurance company or anybody who wants to aggregate that data will have to connect to every database to get that particular information. But Sword Chain is trying to solve that particular problem by saying that we are generating a unanimous data layer, which is a Sword Chain blockchain, which is a layer one blockchain, where all these vehicles and all these companies will be putting their data, and it can be utilized for multiple effects. So coming to that blockchain data availability part, what was the reason why Deniz Sora chain went for Cosmos blockchain? Because as of right now, Ethereum and the layer 2 ecosystem in general is really big, right? In terms of market capitalization and the incentivization and stuff like that, that particular, and as well as the developer community and ecosystem that existed. On the other hand, if you come to decentralized finance, deepin projects, there Solana is making a lot of strides. What was the reason for technically for Sora chain to actually make a IBC based Cosmos SDK led layer 1 blockchain? And what were the thinking behind this technical decision? Because as of right now, I think Akash network is the only well known deepin infrastructure that exists in the Cosmos ecosystem. So, what was the reason that led to this particular decision?
Mhm. Yeah, that's actually a very valid question. When we started about maybe 1.5 year ago, 2 years ago, we also tend to like I'm one of the like maybe very first adopters of the Helium network, and they really had like right now, yeah, they're on Solana, but previous to that, they actually had their own protocol and the consensus layer, which really made sense because you not only are now a decentralized physical infrastructure network in terms of the physical layer itself, you're now not dependent on any type of other blockchain or even a physical network. So initially, when we started, we said that, okay, this is similar to Helium. We have the wireless aspect, we have the connectivity aspect, and on top of that, we have the high mobility aspect. So the high mobility itself introduces another layer of complexity. And having done our research, especially in the Web2 domain in mobility, there had been like data aggregators where they would just collect the data, store it in their servers, silo it away, and decide to whom to sell it. And whenever the time comes, they would expect the company would expect someone to get that data and use it for something. But it doesn't work like that. So we knew that this was going to be a very, very data heavy thing where we would need to verify the data for its authenticity, integrity, and most importantly, plausibility, because it's a physical world data. It is not just like a transaction that I send to you, which I can actually prove by just like through my signature and through the whole blockchain state. but there are sensors involved right now, and you need to prove that the sensor is in fact creating real data. And it it is also very different than IoT data, because when you think about it, in IoT you have like many devices, but they're just sending very small packets of data every once in a while. In mobility, you have continuous stream of data, and these are like very data heavy sensors. Things like lidar, cameras will come in the future, and basically we needed a scaling layer, so to say. So we started designing our own consensus layer based off of the Helium's consensus layer. We even advanced it a lot more, where the vehicles would actually, the devices would be verifying each other. So you wouldn't have to be dependent on an underlying layer one network or anything. Uh, and after that, we started experimenting with Tendermint Core, which the Cosmos SDK uses as its consensus engine and networking stuff. And while we're at it, we've noticed the Cosmos SDK, and we saw that it enabled us to flexibly develop custom modules that were embedded deep into the blockchain logic that you really cannot have with a set of smart contracts on an EVM based, or EVM itself, or an EVM based um, chain. And we actually saw the need that the automotive industry itself would need its own sovereign blockchain with its own validators and with its own scaling layer. So that's why we started building it from scratch. And to give a bit more depth, we've um, experimented with like Avalanche, we've experimented with Polygon, we've experimented with a bunch of other EVM based L2, or like we would be the L3 in that case. But it just didn't work because the idea of Soarchain is to actually have the data, the proof of the data available on the chain, and constantly prove the health and availability of the nodes within the network without actually burdening the network. So that was the reason. And of course, the IBC is a huge advantage as well. As you know, bridging is a very difficult thing, and there had been like most of the hacks and stuff actually happen from bridges, but the IBC bridged assets have seen zero issues until now. So it's the technology, the bridging technology, and it really brings us the ability to natively exchange assets with other IBC enabled chains, which are all the Cosmos SDK chains. So I'd say this is roughly the reason that we went with the Cosmos SDK.
Yeah, so just to summarize what Denise said, basically, when you collect data from vehicles, it's a very data heavy task. And state or getting data on Ethereum blockchain in itself is a very big task that is coming up right now. It's a very tough, tedious task and very expensive. Basically, storing 1 byte of data might cost you somewhere around 10 from $10 to $100 in effect, right? So that was the problem with Ethereum centric layer one blockchains. And layer 2 as well, that was not the viable path. That's why Sora chain basically built its own blockchain so that it could cater to the needs of data availability and resources around that structure. So that's where, like, you guys went for Cosmos. That's really great. The next basic, question was, how is the data collected? Like what Kashif told, is that basically somebody can go and buy this Motus, right?
Let me share the screen. I mean, this is a beautiful device.
Mhm.
To be honest, it's a very small device that can be plugged in. So I'm actually very excited to know how this device generates data. That is what you're asking, Pranav?
Yeah, I mean, how does this divide actually collects the data, and how is it stored on the Cosmos blockchain? And how can people as vehicle owners actually use this other device?
There is an option
Mhm.
of order now. Let me just click on that.
It's 7,000 rupees in India.
Yeah, it's a 7,000 rupees in India.
Yeah.
And I think the best part is that it can be used on two-wheelers as well. Like, I mean, if you have a two-wheeler, it can be used there as well. So we like to
Mhm.
understand that as well, Dennis.
Yeah, definitely. So first off, about the like four-wheelers, uh, the Motus Mini is actually plugged into the vehicle's standard onboard diagnostics port, which is called the OBD2 port, which is present in all the vehicles that are manufactured after like 96 in the US, 2001 in the Europe, and other countries. In the cars in the other countries mostly have it after 2008, 2013, depends on the country. Officially, for example, in India, it is said that it is like 2017, but there are many cars that support it starting from like um, 2012. So to give a bit more idea from the user's perspective, as a user, you receive it, you plug it into your vehicle, you pair it with your phone, and then start using it right away. Start um, participating in the Soarchain network right away. And what happens is that this OBD2 port interfaces with the CAN bus of the car, and the beauty of it is that it is mandated by the emissions regulations around the world. So all the cars must have it, and all the cars must actually expose data to that port. And we're able to successfully read data from that port. It of course depends on the make, model, and year of the car. Like some cars give up to like 2,000, 3,000 data points. Some cars just give like maybe 100 and 150, the older cars. But from all the cars, we are able to get a common set of data, which we can actually, which the applications within the Soarchain ecosystem can actually utilize, and for utilizing reward people. So there are two aspects to it: for connecting to the network and proving that you are a genuine original node that has these data points available at any time. You get a base reward from the network. And on top of that, we have this thing called data provision request. So individual data consumers, who could be like companies, who could be developers, basically send a transaction to the chain. And as a user, you get notified about this. And if you opt in to give your data, then you start even getting rewarded more on top of the base rewards that you get for participating in the network. So this is the vehicles part. Of course, you might ask that how does this actually happen on blockchain? Because even if you're like a layer one yourself, it is really costly to like write the data to the chain, even stream it. Streaming it, verifying it is a whole issue. So we have this built-in scaling solution where the data is actually verified for its authenticity, integrity, and plausibility through some algorithms that run on multiple nodes. So there is a state machine replication on all these nodes, and the data that's coming from the car is actually aggregated into a proof, and that proof is then submitted to the layer one validator network. So it might sound a bit complicated to the like entry level users, but overall, this is a way for us to make the proof that verifies your car data available on chain, not the data itself, not like the plain text data itself, but the proof of availability of that data on chain. So whenever someone needs, let's say you are an electric vehicle company and you need 30 different data points from cars manufactured after 2017 from some country. You can actually submit this data provision request to the chain, and all the vehicles that are eligible, which are within the car registry of Soarchain, can actually respond to this data provision request and start providing data and get rewarded in return. So this is like how the interactions go in Soarchain. But of course, we have designed the protocol in a way that it wouldn't be just like a one-way street where you just provide your data and get rewarded and sell your rewards. So we don't really want that, because we want this to be a sustainable economy. We want this to be, we actually assign some utility to the token. So
So, uh, so you're saying that the data that this Motus collects is encrypted, and then the proof of that data availability is put on the Cosmos blockchain, or that
mhm.
encrypted data, which could be decrypted
Yes.
by insurance companies, that is put on the blockchain.
No, actually, you're exactly right. The signed and encrypted data is proven by the scaling layer, the intermediate scaling layer, and that is actually written to the blockchain. So you have the metadata of the data on the blockchain that constantly proves that, let's say you are vehicle A, and vehicle A is healthy, it is honest, it is providing good data. There's also a scoring mechanism. So uh, as long as you stay connected and don't like don't game the system or whatever, you actually, your score keeps increasing, and you actually get even more rewarded. If you do
So,
something malicious, if it tries to hack the system, its score gets decreased. So that's also, there's like a reputation system uh, that actually keeps the
yeah.
nodes honest and integral.
But if the data is not stored on the blockchain, only the metadata is stored.
Mhm.
If a particular company, let's say an insurance company, wants the data of that particular vehicle, how do they get it? Like, are they given a private key, or
Yes,
how
yes.
can they access it? Yeah.
Exactly. They basically, as I mentioned, this through this data provision request, they initially submit this to the chain, and they get access to the real-time stream of the cars, which we really don't take part in storing, because we are not a data storage network. We are not specialized, nor have any claims about storing the data itself, because we believe that that is already a solved issue. We have mentioned Filecoin, we have IPFS. We have been recently working with Jackal Protocol, which is also a Cosmos SDK chain. They're like providing really good technology in terms of decentralized storage provision. So that part we actually leave to the data user. Basically, that part is we do provide the tools, the necessary tools, and make it a streamlined experience for them to actually store the data. But that is the whole idea. That is the problem we've detected with the Web2 approaches. There were multiple companies, as I mentioned, they aggregate the data, they store it in their servers, and they try to sell it. But that, especially in mobility, doesn't work, because the recency, the currency of the data is very important. 2 year ago's data probably won't mean anything to you. And as
So
as a
that's where
data consumer, we facilitate the
streaming.
secure, private, and anonymous streaming of the data, while verifying that the data was in fact streamed and plausible.
Yeah.
But to add on top of your question, we do have like a few teams, a few companies that are trying to build data marketplaces and that are trying to become data aggregators on Soarchain. So that's actually an emerging application in itself in Soarchain. But the beauty of the thing is that they're not blindly storing away all the data just in case someone someday might use it, but they're actually willing to store data that makes a business use case for someone. So that is the
Okay.
most important part about data. Yeah.
Okay, so basically, up till now, whatever data vehicles, like, in Web2 companies were trying to store that vehicle data, it was not verified. It was stale data, and it could be gimmicked. Basically, it could be like, not true. Plus, there were privacy concerns related to that. This led to innovation in vehicle data space not happen, and with Sora chain that can be progressed as a crux, right? The biggest question, I'm a vehicle owner now, I want to use Motus, have it plugged into my vehicle, which now I just saw it is available. Anybody who has a vehicle after 2017 will have that portal plug, who can pull in that Motus and start earning rewards for the data they're sharing about their particular vehicle. The question is there a privacy concern? Can somebody be tracked if he has a Motus, or is there some kind of privacy related data that Motus might be actually taking? Is there any issues around
And
that?
Yeah.
and obviously, I want to add on to it is like a lot of conversation we have in the car in private privacy. I mean, like Pranav, most of the time when it goes with along with his girlfriend, so he wants to be secure that his conversations are like private and and they don't go out of the car.
So yeah,
So
So
this is a perfectly valid question, by the way. This is actually something, I mean, ideologically, personally, as a company, we're battling with, like being a Web3 company, or like a company that integrates the blockchain into their workflows. Doesn't just mean using the blockchain as a means to bookkeep in a fancier way. It should actually advance people's lives, because internet as it is right now is broken. The company's approach to privacy, to data retention, data storage is broken. We've seen this with many different companies, with all the social media giants, all these cloud giants. Even if they are well, their intentions are well, they get hacked, or something happens. So the thing is that, like, it the protocol itself shouldn't allow any kind of vulnerabilities, or at least it should not inherently have single points of failure. And that is why we have multiple layers of security in the system. So initially, the first line of defense is the hardware itself. So the hardware, we call it a secure hardware, not just because it's cool to call it secure, but it actually has a secure element in it, meaning that there's a chip in it that helps us store all the private keys, all the sensitive data, all the anything that would damage the privacy of the user if it was compromised, in a completely hardware secure way. So you can think of it similar to these hardware wallets, the similar technology that like Ledger or like other hardware wallet things use. But um, it is also able to collect data from your car. So this is the initial line of defense. All the private keys, all the sensitive certificates, software related keys are stored in the secure hardware. And most importantly, sorry, the data that's coming from the hardware, um, we have a system to check what software is actually running on the hardware. So the hash of the software that runs on the hardware is actually stored on the chain, and it's kind of used as a fingerprint, so that you know that that specific software, which was verified and publicly made available to everyone to audit, is running on that hardware. So this is the initial line of defense. So you know that the hardware is actually encrypting your data and then signing it with your private keys to um, actually make it belong to your account. The second layer of defense is we use a pseudonym system, where you actually really, even if you physically track someone and see that there's a data coming into the blockchain, you somehow, in a very difficult way, link that person to that data on the chain, even if it's encrypted. Sometime later, like it depends on a lot of factors, but let's say 2 hours later, the same car won't have the same public key. It's similar to this HT wallet thing where you have a single private key, but multiple addresses, which no one can actually link together. So the second line of defense is this. And the third line of defense is the runner scaling layer, where your data comes, and without actually uh, looking into the data itself, it gets verified. We use some zero knowledge methods here, and all the checks are actually done on either encrypted or like obscured data. And only when someone wants to use your data, they specifically have to ask if they can use your data. And you can granularly opt in to provide any data field that you want decrypted. And you actually know whenever someone will use that data. So this is like a huge upgrade from what we have right now, where you're in your car manufacturer installed some technology in your car which you don't know, and your data is getting tracked, your location is getting tracked, and you cannot monetize this. You don't even know that this is happening. So I believe that
Yeah.
this will be a huge upgrade.
Definitely, it's a big upgrade. One CTA, if you would have for all the vehicle operators in India, given that we are such a big population and such a big data producer, right? What would that be? If today I have a vehicle and I buy this Motus worth 7,000 rupees and I install it in my vehicle, how can I like basically be incentivized for like give sharing you this valuable data by roaming around my in my car and stuff like that? How can that
Mhm.
be possible? What are the steps
Yeah,
to basically get that incentive?
definitely. So as I mentioned, like the decentralization aspect is very important. So we could have been just a single company asking for your data and rewarding you with with some in-company game tokens, like as if we were in a game. We could have gamified it. But right now, actually, the people own the network. People help maintain the network, and people get the most benefit out of it. It is said that a vehicle data will be worth something in between $200 to $800 per year, depending on what data the vehicle generates. But this is like an estimation, an average, a large range, but it's still an estimate. So instead of like giving this value to someone else or not generating that value at all, Soarchain provides people to actually get that value out from their cars and share it in a secure, private, and anonymous way. So I would that's like the revolutionary aspect of it. Previous to this, you would have to go through a single company, you would have to go through a centralized entity, a single point of failure, and you just wouldn't be able to utilize the resources of your car to its fullest. But right now, it is possible because it is a self-maintaining system. It has its incentive structure that lives on with as the chain lives on, and you as the people have the opportunity to actually become a part of it, continue maintaining it, and get rewarded for maintaining it, plus uh, monetize your data, and from my
How can
perspective,
I
utilize
how
the
can
data.
I claim it? How can I claim that data that I generate? Right now, the token is not alive, I suppose, right?
Oh,
So as of
yeah,
now,
right
yeah,
now we're on the incentivized testnet. So
yeah,
you plug it into your car, and it is basically a replica of the mainnet. We
yeah.
have the token called T-Motus. So they are, as a user, you utilize the device and you get rewarded in the testnet tokens. And the testnet tokens will actually be converted in a certain ratio on the mainnet when we go out on the mainnet. And
Okay.
of course, you will continue doing the exact same thing on the mainnet. Just the name of the ticker of the token will change from T-Motus to Motus. That's it.
That's definitely a valuable information, right? Basically, that device You, when you set it up, you will also give a Cosmos address of yours, Soarchain Cosmos address. You can
Hmm.
have
Hmm.
your wallet associated to that, like Kepler, for example, that you can use to just associate it. And when you are just driving around and doing things, you don't know, and you will be minting tokens because you're giving your data, valuable data,
Hmm.
to people, right?
And
That's great. Kashiv, do you want to comment
Yeah,
anything?
yeah. So
Yeah.
I wanted to ask about before we do a wrap up, wanted to ask about the Suzuki showing interest in Soarchain. I mean, that is something that we have not touched upon.
Suzuki and Ford both.
yeah,
Suzuki and Ford, yeah.
so the
And
thing
and
about
and,
it
and
is
some more,
not
and if there are some more partnerships in the line.
there are actually like undisclosed ones, many undisclosed ones. The as I like I mentioned in the beginning, many of the car companies, they basically want to advance their technology. They want to like these are like 100-year-old companies, right? Like some invented the car itself. They are manufacturing millions and millions of vehicles per year, and they have actually optimized everything about manufacturing as much as they can. Like it's crazy about what they're doing in terms of the mechanical optimization and the factory optimizations. But when you look at it from a software development perspective, or like even electronic sensor oriented vehicles perspective, it is a fairly new topic. And all of these companies, they are looking to actually create new business opportunities on the vehicles. They want this vehicle to be more valuable and higher utility to their users. They also understand that their users have privacy concerns. Their users want to monetize their car data. They're not really like it's one would think that okay, these are like huge companies, they just want to silo the data to themselves, but it's not the case. Actually, they just want to collaborate with other companies. They also want their users, their customers, to be happy and to have the most out of their mobility experience. So with Soarchain, it is not only like we know that it is not really realistic to completely go through the end user route where we as the users, okay, we became 100 million and we completely disregard the car manufacturers. It is not realistic. That is why we're also including the car manufacturers and actually having them deploy their own blockchain programs on Soarchain. So that is something we have been working on. And one of the most appealing things about having their blockchain programs on Soarchain is that they're able to have their own token. They can actually design the tokenomics in a way that they want to use it internally. They can use it in. They can use it inside the company or with their vendors for supply chain, for manufacturing, for factory, for a lot of things, for loyalty programs. But most importantly, they would have a hub, a, a settlement hub that their um, mm, like program or like their users would be able to interface with the other users. So that's also very appealing to them. So as company A, you are able to both give your users the chance to earn Motus and your own token, and those tokens would actually mean something in other places as well. So that's one of the most appealing things. But as I said, at the root of the thing, they just want to develop more applications. They just want to have more developers. And this wasn't really possible in mobility because it's a fairly closed ecosystem because of many things. So that's why opening it up, decentralizing it, and creating an incentive structure that would benefit everyone in the ecosystem is just very attractive to both the large companies and the end users.
Right.
Definitely. One last point that I would want to add before we close by the closing remarks by Kashif is that not just car owners but also developers in India can actually utilize the data that Sora chain is using for interesting applications that can be built. on top of them. And of course, there'll be hackathons and a big community of Soarchain developers that they can hop onto Discord and start talking about this as their incentivized testnet is launched. Is there? I'm sure there is going to be some kind of rewards and allocations also for people who are
Mhm.
developing on the Soarchain, blockchain as a and utilizing its data for amazing use cases. Insurance is one such that Kashif highlighted. There are many more that can come up, in the future, and the daily usage habits of people who are, it can also be integrated with Google Maps to see what's the accurate traffic in the particular place and stuff like that. So the applications are immense. You just have to put in your mind and do something creative. Like always, India has the biggest developer population, so that's something that could be a CTA, a call to action for everybody to explore Sorachain, to utilize its data to build something creative and innovative. Kashif, last thoughts.
My last thought is that the you know we are living in a time that in Web3 space, if you are investing in crypto and then trying to earn, I think that you can try and do that. That's also one way to do that. But I think the most of the people in crypto space, sooner or later they realize that the best way to enter in Web3 is to earn your crypto and earn it through putting in using these kind of devices like the DePIN infrastructure, and or we are seeing that interacting with various smart contracts and doing a lot of activities and getting airdrop. That is one thing, but another thing is that genuinely you can use these deep in infrastructure based models and products, and you can use them, and while using them, you'll actually earn in terms of reward, in terms of crypto or points and or airdrops. But above that, I think if you are experiencing these kind of product, then your belief in the system will grow a little more, because then you will feel that Web3 is not all about to the moon or getting rich. Web3 is here to actually solve real world problems, and that will give you a lot of confidence. You can actually show it to your people, you can show it to your friends and families and people around you, that see, if somebody will sit in your car and they'll say, what is this device that so you can just tell them, boldly, with proud, that I'm also so I've got this device where it has a use case, so many things it is solving, and plus I'm also getting rewarded. What are you doing? So I mean, these are the kind of things that will revolutionize. Thank you very much, Dennis. Any closing remarks? And then we'll ask people to follow Dennis, and we'll also put in the all the relevant links of Soar Chain and the Twitter handles and everything that is Soar Chain, where people can go and interact. Any last thought you want to communicate to the audience that we have missed?
Yeah, well, I actually we covered it really good, and your last thoughts were really on point. That's something we also give as an example. So, of course, like the initial users might be more crypto native users or maybe car enthusiasts or whatnot, but the actual use case, this is also valid for most DePIN projects. I think the physical world is the final frontier for blockchain use case, and uh, our larger user base in the end will not even know that they're in fact using a blockchain or there's a blockchain in the background. They will just use it for the benefits, for the value that it creates for them, which is solving the already existing problems that they have in a certain sector, which is mobility in our case. So that's how I think the next billion users to crypto would come without actually noticing that they're using a crypto product or like a blockchain product, but something that actually solves their problem rather than what you just mentioned, to the moon, or I don't know, like pumping on
Yeah.
stuff like that. So yeah, that's completely valid. And I would also encourage everyone to participate in our incentivized testnet. It is still not late. It is still very early. You would be very early on in the project, and we welcome everyone who wants to be part of this revolution.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Deniz. Thank you very much, Pranav. And we'll also leave the link for that testnet where people can just go and do it. We'll leave it in the description. Right. Thank you very much, Deniz. Till then.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.